And due to some inevitable reasons, Professor Elango is joining us online because this induction program is hybrid. Professor Elango, can we start the session, sir?
Yes, please, yes.
Yes, sir, you're audible. We can also see you. We are only a little glad that we cannot see you here. Otherwise, it would have been a perfect session because we know the kind of energy you transpose in a person, in an in-person session. So I have the privilege of introducing Professor Elango. He is involved in addressing environmental issues related to groundwater and surface water resources. Now, his research contributions on hydro-environmental issues in international journals have placed him among the top 2% of the scientists in this particular field. Now, this is no easy achievement. So, he's among the top 2% of the scientists in the world in his field, according to a paper published by the Stanford University recently. He also has the highest number of publications and is the topmost contributor in the field of groundwater research in Asia, as per a bibliometric analysis in June 22. Now, his research credentials made him elected in 2015 for 2 terms as the Vice President of International Association of Hydrological Sciences, which has about 10,000 members in over 150 countries with the headquarters in UK. So, sir has been very active when it comes to research, projects, that is also concerned with socially conscious research. We are very glad to have you, sir, to address our research scholars. But then we are not able to felicitate you in person here with a flower bouquet or a memento that we have bought for you. But the session will
On Monday or Tuesday.
Sure, sir. We will start the session.
So
yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hope the slides are moving. Am I right?
So can you start the...
Very good. So I'm very happy to be with you all, the budding researchers of Anna University. I will share some of my experience in writing a research paper. It's a kind of advice which I would like to give you all based on the practical experience I had for over 3 decades. Right. So what is a research paper? In the morning, you have been hearing my colleagues who highlighted the importance of research. So research as well as writing a research paper is one and the same, which is we are going to carry out a systematic investigation of certain aspects based on your area of interest. You may be working in structural engineering or Internet of Things, or maybe on communication or in aerospace. But whatever area in which you are working, we are going to carry out a systematic investigation. What is the purpose of carrying out a systematic investigation? To come out with a meaningful conclusion. Hope I'm audible, right? I hear a lot of noise from the road here, but in spite of that, hope I'm audible. A research paper is like, first of all, we are going to collate what has happened in the past. That means trying to understand what is the status quo, how we are going beyond that by carrying out a critical investigation. This is what is research, and the same is also applicable in writing a research paper. So what do we need to write a research paper? Many of you may be thinking, right, we need some advanced equipments and we need some high-tech gadgets. Am I right? I think many of you may be thinking like that. You are partly true, right? When you have some latest gadget in the world, your paper will be certainly accepted because, for example, in the area of groundwater contamination today, there are some emerging contaminants which has not been looked into by any of the researchers in the world. So you can analyze such elements which have not been looked into others by using some very expensive equipment. Certainly your paper will be highly sought after. But that is not the criteria always. Please bear in mind, right? Just a passion will do. That is what I used to tell my students. That is how I have grown up. I didn't have any big equipment when I started my career. So first of all, we should have passion, right, in carrying out what we are, what is the research on which we are working on. Obviously, we should have enthusiasm, and you also need self-motivation, curiosity, and if you have all of them, this itself is sufficient to complete your research work by coming out with some good publications. So you need not be a top ranker to be a successful researcher. This again I'm telling based on my experience. Some very poor students who have joined me for my PhD, then they are professors abroad today. I don't want to name them, right? So you need not be a top ranker and you need not be a very proficient in language. That is the case for myself. I studied in Tamil medium. I don't know how to write also at the beginning of my career. But if the language is there, it is a big plus point, right? Currently, the students I have, they are very good in language, but still they are lacking in other things which you see at the top, right? They don't have much of a passion, self enthusiasm, self motivation is lacking. So if you have language also along with that, it is a plus point. And you need not be a genius. There is a saying, all of you know, if there is a will, there is a way. If there is a will, there is a way. Here you can see a plant which is a nice flowering plant is in a cement floor. Through some small gap, this flower plant has come up. So that means if you have the same will, there is always a way to come up with the flying colors. How to start writing a paper, right? You are at the beginning of your career, so in few months, first of all, you should decide about what is the priority, what is the question which you want to answer, right? That means you should first of all have couple of questions, right? At the beginning of your research career, maybe two or three. Eventually, you may end up in carrying out only one question till the end of your thesis. Other two, you would have failed getting the answers, or you would have found that it is not very interesting. So first and foremost priority is to formulate a question. Then how are we going to answer that, right? How other people have answered so far, right? That means the question which you may have would have been answered by others, right? How others have answered. How does your way of answering is going to be better or faster, or in what is the advantage of the proposal you have, right? And how will you know when you have answered it, right? That is also very critical, right? And when we carrying out a work, we are also not sure whether we have completed the work, right? Whether we have got the best answer. So this also we need to figure out. Then the most difficult part is, that is the case for me also, we people do lot of work. That is our nature, right? In India we do a lot of work, but we are failing in presenting our answer. So then you can present the answer in the best possible manner. That is possible only through the publication of the papers, right? Without papers, we are nothing, right? So first and foremost is, what is the question we are going to answer, right? This story all of you may know. It is something like this: a blind man do not know what it is, right? Combinedly they came out with an answer. So this is what is a research paper is about. We should also learn to think differently, right? A little bit differently from what others have thought, right? There should be a contribution of at least 1%, right? Maybe your research paper should improve the knowledge of understanding at least by 1 or 2%, right? That is also very important. That is possible only by thinking differently, out of the box thinking, we used to say. That is also very essential in formulating a research question. Then what journal we have to look for, right? You are at the beginning of your career, you know, according to Center for Research, there is going to be a lecture, I think day after tomorrow, wherein you will be told about the regulations. But one of the good starting point, the advantage of Anna University is, Anna University Center for Research periodically updates and gives you the list of journals, which is very interesting, right? No other university, even IIT, doesn't have such a list. So here we have a big list from where you can choose a apt journal depending upon the area in which you are going to carry out your work. So that is the first point. Then the next is, what is the type of journal which you are looking for? There are two or three different options by which we can publish our results. The conventional journals, in which when you write a paper, you also sign a copyright, which means the moment you submit your paper, the paper belongs to that publisher. For example, Springer, right? You cannot even copy and write. You may say that is your own paper, but we have already signed the contract with them. So even when you write the thesis, you need to refer your own paper, because though you have written that, the ownership now is with the publisher. That also we should keep in mind. And to overcome this issue, since last 2020, I think from 1998, many journals have come out with another option of open access or open source journals, in which the copyright actually rests with us. So what is a open access journal? So in open access, we own the copyright. That means whoever wants to make use of your paper, they should write to you. Right, I am going to make use of certain part of your paper or certain picture of your paper for their book or for any of the other contribution. So you completely own the ownership. The copyright is with you. That is the most important thing in the open access journals. Over the last 6 or 7 years, there are also another group of journals which are known as hybrid access journals, which means they published in the traditional way. That means the traditional way is the way in which the papers are accepted, and you based on signing a contract by you. That means ownership transfers. Right? That copyright transfer you are signing. That is what we saw in the previous page, right? So part of these papers in such journals will be traditional, part of them may be open access. Right? These are known as hybrid access journals. Right? And there are also lot of confusion among the young researchers, which I understand from my own students, right? We used to say that special issues are also very important. They are also highly competitive. But there are certain issues with our university faces. So we should also refer to the periodical announcement made by the Center for Research, because in Anna University, we don't consider a publication that has come out with a top journal. It may be a top journal, but if it is a special issue, we don't consider that as a minimum eligibility criteria for submission of your thesis. So you have to periodically monitor the announcement. And also sometimes it is difficult to choose, right? For example, this is one popular journal with an impact factor of more than I think 6, which is known as Frontiers in Environmental Science. The papers are published in different sections. I think this is okay as far as Anna University is concerned. This is not a special issue. Only thing is they group the papers based on the subject of interest. You can see the title of the journal is Environmental Science, but it is coming out in about 10 or 12 topics, special sections, which are not really a special issue as you see here. So this is actually okay. Then what are the charges? What is the difference between open access and the traditional publication method we had seen? So when you say open access, we are going to own the copyright, which means the journal is not getting anything out of it. Right? For example, on the previous page, we had seen the traditional publication. In traditional publication, we are signing the copyright. The copyright is with the journal. So whomever wants to see your paper, they have to pay to the journal company, where you would have also experienced, or you will experience soon. If you want to download one copy, you may have to shell out $20 or $30 just to get one copy of that, right? Officially, right? So which means the journal is earning by your publications, right? That is the traditional. Whereas when you say open access, right, you are going to own the copyright, which means journal is not going to earn anything because of your paper. So they charge a exorbitant rate by us. They call it as publication charges, right? APC is called, right, author publication charges, which ranges from anywhere between 500 is the least. It is normally between 2,500 to $3,000 or sometimes euros. So which is a exorbitant rate. But the advantage of this is your paper is widely referred by everyone, right? Which is really a pathetic situation, right? If you pay, your citation index goes up, your H index goes up, because whomever wants, they will get your publication very easily. Whereas if you don't want to pay, and if you want to go for the traditional method of publication, you don't get wide circulation, because people have to buy and see your paper. So circulation is little reduced. So APC is much higher, whereas in many other countries or even here, right? For example, if you have a sponsored research project, we pay from the project grants. The government also approves payment of such APC charges, right? APC is article processing charges. But please remember, we people from country like India, you should not be perturbed by such exorbitant rates, but you have to negotiate with the publisher, right? You send couple of mails, 3 or 4 mails, I cannot pay. So they will say first 50%, again you write to them, then they will say 60% reduction, then they will say 75%, sometimes they will come up to 80% also. So finally you end up in paying only about 25 to 30,000 or max maybe 50,000 rupees. 50,000 rupees if you pay, your paper get wide access, right? You will become very popular quickly because your paper will be highly, if it is very interesting, every person who is working in the area of your research will download that. So this is what is the three different types. One is the traditional way of publication, the second is open access, third is hybrid access. That means the journal will have in the table of contents, some papers alone will be open access, which means authors have paid them. Others would not have paid them. So that paper will not, when you click the link, it won't open. You have to pay to access that particular journal. These are the three different types. Then comes the journal organization, right? The first and foremost is the publisher. So publisher is the one who is owning the journal. You know many of them as Springer or Elsevier, right? You may know some of them, right? So, one is MPDI from Switzerland. These are all the owners. That means they have the complete power. They have their own objectives, right? Always there, it is business. Actually, it is business. So their worry is if they publish papers, how much of money they are going to get. So it is purely a business. They are the owners. Then comes the editor. These publishers look for some top scientists, right, to manage the entire editorial process. So they are known as journal editors, right? Normally there will be one editor known as editor-in-chief. I was also there as editor-in-chief for Elsevier's journal for 5 years, right? And they are normally appointed. So they are just directly contacted by the publisher because they continuously monitor who is publishing, what is his role, right? How many papers he has published, everything they monitor. One fine day we get an email, are you interested? So they are appointed based on their track record, absolutely based on the track record. Nothing like influence or anything because they want to build their journal, take it to greater heights. So editor has got complete power. That means editor is the ultimate person who is going to decide whether the paper is going to be published or not. However, it is dependent on the recommendation of the editorial board or group of associated editors. Always the editor's concern is, right, to improve the standard of the journal. That means what we call it as impact factor. We are going to see a little later. And we have to increase the impact factor, reduce the wait times. As a researcher, you will always be interested in sending the paper today. Within 15 days, we want to have our paper published. Isn't it? That will be our interest. So that is the interest of all the publishers as well as the editor-in-chiefs. So they want to reduce the time. And as I told you, he has group of associated editors. They arrange for reviews. And also there are special issues, right? Special issue also has a editor, right? So one such special issue is this, right? The special issue editors, they do not have big powers as the editor-in-chief. In fact, though they edit the special issue, they are not the person who decide whether the paper can be accepted or rejected, right? It is designed in such a way, right? The special editor is the person who promotes the journal, who invites all his friends and colleagues to write papers, but at the same time he is not really a deciding person. Then what is an impact factor of the journal? Obviously, any researcher, as a budding scientist or a budding engineer, your interest should be to publish in a very good journal. That way, Anna University is very good. They have come out with a big list of journals, right? So all of them are reputed journals. But among that, the impact factor of the journals which are listed in our annexure may start from, I don't know, they are the right person to say, they may start from 0.1 up to 45, 50 as the impact factor, right? So you have to look for at least some reasonably good journals with reasonably good impact factor. So if you have good impact factor journal publication, your paper will be very well cited. So what is an impact factor? It is nothing but A by B. It is A by B. That means for at the end of 23 only we will be able to get what is A by B. What is A? A is the number of papers published in that particular journal in the year 21 and 22. That means in the last 2 years, how many papers were published in that particular journal, and in the same years, how many of them were cited by all the other journals, including the same journal. Am I clear, right? So A is the number of papers published in the last 2 years, and B is how many times they were cited, right? So A by B now is the impact factor of the journal is 0.5. This is how the impact factor is decided. So there is no whims and fancy here, right? That way the journal industry is performing much better way, right? There can be some minor things, right? If you know the editor, your paper may be pushed quickly, but at the same time really worthless paper, even your friend may be the editor-in-chief, he will not be interested in publishing that, because if he publishes that, the standard of the journal will go down. If there are very poor papers published in the last 2 years, impact factor will go down. All the publishers will like to have the impact factor keep on increasing over a period of time. This is what is the impact factor. Then H index. So H index is measured for you, right? At the end of your career, when you apply for your postdoc, now actually there is no need to send your CV, right? The person who is abroad will be able to assess your performance by looking into your publications, right? No longer we need to send our CV, right? Absolutely, CV is necessary, but your research potential will be very easily assessed by each and every one of them, right? That is the pressure which we faculty members have, right? For example, if you search my name, you will know the entire history of my publications. What is my H index, right? That we cannot conceal anything as a faculty member, right? That is the case for you too. So the H index is based on the number of papers that has been published by you and how many of them have referred them. So this is how your H index is calculated. So if you have more H index, you have published more papers. At the same time, your papers have been very much referred by others, right? These are the two important things. One is the impact factor and the next is the H index, right? How to know about all these things? You can search these sites. You will know. You just type your name in Google Scholar. You will know whether you have published a paper or not. Or type your supervisor's name. You will know what are all the various papers he has published. So it is all open to everyone. It is not a secret at all, right? Unlike in the business industry, right? For example, if you are in a big company, in IT company, you do not know the potential of others, how much of salary he gets. Nothing is known to us. But whereas in the academic domain, so this is one of the greatest plus point actually. So you get to know about others by your publications, right? It gives a lot of advantage for us. For example, I get emails from several other people, right? We are interested in working in India. We came to know about you. This is how we get mail. So we become more and more popular by writing more papers. Why to publish? I put specifically. So always it is important to have good number and quality publications, right? So in that way, in Anna University, we are lucky because there are several predatory journals, right? Some bogus journals, right? With the same name, lot of issues. So you should look for the absolutely good journals for which you have the list already published in our university CFR's website. So you look for publication in such journals it is the most important factor that is going to decide about your career, right? Suppose if you are going to be in academic or research, publications are the must, right? If you are going to be a teacher, most obviously many of you will be interested, or if you are going to be in research, absolutely publications are the must. If you are going to join with an industry, even there, the publications are very essential, right? For example, if you are going to be in Microsoft, or if you are going to be in Google, right? Or if you are going to be in Mercedes Benz, even their publications are important because their company standing also improves, right? I will show you little later, right? Even which company has come out with big number of publications, people can search. That is also possible. So it is actually a matter of life and death. The publications are so important. We also always used to say publish or perish. But at the same time, I will also like to say there are also some critics. What is the use of publishing, right? Why peers have to review? I think a few months ago there was a video that was spread in WhatsApp that don't try to publish, right? Why two people have to see your papers? Certainly, for them to accept your paper, you have to write what is the current status. If you do differently, they are not going to accept your papers. Like that, there was a video, which is also right. I don't want to deny that. But because of that, we should not stop publishing. That is my request. So publication is a basic requirement in Anna University for completing the thesis. In fact, Anna University standing in the world has improved only because of the publications by the researchers like you, right? Why to publish? Again, one is personal, one is your personal interest. So by publishing, you are telling the world that you are working. First of all, right, so many researchers are doing the research in the world. In Anna University itself, maybe 300, 400 of you have joined this year. Even here, 10 or 15 of you may be trying to work on the same research question. Question may be the same. So we do not really know what the other person is doing. So to make the world know, you should quickly publish. Try to write your answer. This is what you have found out. Maybe in 1.5 years' time, if you don't publish, your thesis becomes redundant because if some other person publishes, then you have to borrow and write and you have to cite them, isn't it? So it is always better to quickly work and publish, especially in the case of top-notch research areas, right? Maybe like machine learning application in something else, right? Maybe in IoT application in water resources or machine learning in surface water modeling. I'm talking about my own area of research, right? That too in India, we may work at a particular study site. Few others may also be working at the same site. So you have to be very quick. So that is your personal interest. It is also helpful to measure your work. You will feel elated the moment you see your paper published. Certainly, the first paper is something very, very unique thing in one's life, one's academic and research life. And suppose if you are working using a fellowship, please remember you are not only working for yourself, but you are also have to save the name of the person who has given you fellowship. For example, you may be working in a DST funded project or Anna University research fellowship, right? I think it's called AURF now. I think I'm not very sure, right? So if you are getting money, if you are getting paid, right, then you please also remember the private companies will say your salary is 25k or 50 lakhs per annum, but actually your take home will be only 60,000 rupees. They will also include cost to the company because you are going to occupy 10 by 10 square feet of area in that building. You are going to consume so much of power. Because of you, what is the cost the company is incurring? You may be traveling in their company's bus, isn't it? We should also think in those terms, right? When you get fellowship, publication is very, very important. Publications are also very vital because today in India, you get 100% funding to attend conferences abroad, right? You can visit USA, right, with full funding for your travel, certainly for travel and also registration fee. It is a very unique thing in India, right? So to get your application to be successful, right, they study the application only based on your research potential. You should have, if you have 2 or 3 papers at the time of your application, you are sure that you will get the grant. My own students have got and traveled. right? And lastly, getting a job, especially in academic and research area, papers are very, very important. Then the next is, this is what I slightly mentioned here, cost to company. You are also improving the standing of the university, Anna University, right? Because Anna University, if you publish one paper, Anna University status goes up little bit because of the contribution by you. You should keep that also in mind. The university gets a better ranking. The university's ranking goes up. Not only that, and also you are making the country proud. Countries are ranked based on the publications. You would have published one paper, that is very, very important. That Siruduri very well சொல்ற மாதிரி, it is also very, very important. So you are help that way. You are, one is personal, then you are helping the university, then lastly you are also helping the world because you have helped to come out with something new. Maybe it may be 0.1%, but that is very, very important. So very important. So publication is very, very essential. I used to tell my student, who was lethargic, no, I used to tell, don't worry, don't work for yourself, but at least work for the sake of our country, right? Also, it helps you to travel abroad, right? You can go to many conferences based on your publications. You are invited to different conferences. Here you can see, right, as I told you, the publications are used to rank the countries. So this was taken about 7-8 years ago. This I took today, right? On the right hand side, I took today, right? So you can see through this site, you can also check the country, number of documents the country has published. So we are somewhere here. India is certainly improving, right? If you see here, where is India? Here we were in 9th position a few years ago. Today we are in the 7th position. So Anna University's role in that is tremendous because no other university in India, including IIT, have made the publication mandatory, right? So that way, Anna University's contribution for this is also tremendous. So if you publish, if you are there are about 400 of you. If you publish, all the 400 of you publish one paper in next 4 years, you are helping the country to move up from 7 to 6, right? From 7 to 6, maybe you are helping the country to move up. So, and also you help Anna University. This is what I told you. The same site, if you go, if you visit that site, you can get the ranking based on the industries, based on the companies, right? Here you can see overall rank, you can choose universities, you can choose the country, you can choose the year. So this I took only a few hours ago. Here you can see, using this, we will get the ranking of universities, right? In fact, Anna University got DST PERS grant. DST special grant, I don't know the amount, it was about 50 crores or so few years ago. That grant was given directly by the government to Anna University based on our research position. That's all. Okay. So your contribution is very, very important to improve the ranking of the university. Now coming to the paper, how much time it will take to publish a paper? Sometimes very quickly, right? If you are smart, you can, without moving anywhere, sit with your computer and internet. That is enough. You can write a paper in 3 months, especially review papers. But in Anna University, we don't consider this as a eligibility criteria for submission of thesis. But you can write and review paper within 3-4 months. However, with the help of your supervisor, of course, because he is really knowledgeable. So you should take the help of him. So you can, sometimes it takes several years also, right? See, look at the pace, right? Startup is very slow always, right? Initially, few months you will spend only by understanding what is the research, especially full-time scholars. Part-time scholars, it is much more difficult, right? After that, you are start working, carrying out some laboratory experiments or field experiments. That is little bit quick. Then you got all the results, right? Then interpreting the results starts somewhere here. You have got all the results, start writing, then rewrite. This takes a lot of time, right? You may feel that you have completed the work. I will submit my paper in 1 month's time, because I say this also from my own students, right? Who are supposed to complete sometime during February last year, still not yet complete. So you can understand, right? So work would have been completed, but again and again revision, redoing, then you may find some fault, then you may end up in going here. So it takes some time. Ultimately, you submit your research paper. So this is the general timeline for a research paper. Now let us see how to write a paper. First and foremost, as I had told you already, we should learn, right? Today you have started your research career. Please understand in your area of interest what has been understood so far by others. How will you understand that? Today it is very easy. With the internet, you can search different database, right? Scientific database, including Google Scholar. If you type your research topic, all the papers are listed down. You can get all of them, right? You need not pay for it. You can find the author's email address, send an email. Within an hour or within a day, you get the paper so easily, not like olden days. We used to write letters, right? So you can understand the status quo. After understanding the status quo, now you have to think what tweak I want to make. What is the additional thing I want to do? It can be a small thing, but that you have to exploit and make it as your thesis as well as your research paper, right? So you understand the status, then try to understand what is the what is lacking in the status, right? What is missing in the status, then try to do a work that takes you beyond the status, right? So what was wrong, you try to fill up this is what is the research gap. Actually you will write a section in the first chapter of your thesis also, right? This is research gap, right? So this is very, very important. Always any paper, whatever area in which you are working, you may be working on aerospace engineering or chemical engineering or food technology or in IoT, right? Whatever area in which you are working, these are the three major steps we should keep in mind. Remember this always for every paper which you write. Right? Always it has to tell a story. I used to tell my students it is nothing like a movie. Right? More or less like a movie, but in movies nowadays, right, in a movie which you see here, different aspects are said, they increase your interest and ultimately they tell the results. In the same way, you have to also think of presenting your story in the paper, right? So you need a kind of catchy statements. That is possible only by finding out a interesting problem, right? So your question should be interesting. The research question should be interesting so that authors get attention. They pay attention to your research. So get a catchy problem. Then we need to solve the problem which we have chosen, right? So that is what the solution of the problem you are telling at the story, at the last scene of a movie, right? Something like climax, right? You increase the interest of the reader, ultimately give the results at the end. This is also a problem I have seen in my own students. Many a time they write the results even in introduction. Sometimes even in the methodology they write this is what I have got. We should never do that. You should keep up the tempo. The result should come only at the back end of the. It is just like a movie, but in movie sometimes the climax is shown first, then what had happened they show it as a flashback. That will not work here. It is like a traditional movie style is important to write a scientific paper. So before starting writing, we should decide what for we are writing. Ultimately, our interest in Anna University is to write a journal paper, right, based on your work. Or you may be interested in writing a review paper, as I told you, because review paper is always the best option to start. This will help you to complete one of the chapter of your thesis also, right? However, this paper, as I told you, is not considered as a requirement for submission of thesis in Anna University, right? What are all the different possibilities? One is the research paper, that is a journal paper, or you may write for some proceedings of some workshops or conferences, or just for a simple abstract for a conference, you just give you the summary of results, or the thesis, which is the combination of all the above. But in our talk today, we are going to restrict to writing a journal paper. So first and foremost is we should be very clear what I want to tell in this publication. So start thinking right from the beginning. From today, you should start thinking what can be the first paper which I am going to write. What can I communicate to the world? Because the moment you publish, your name is your paper is going to be seen by anyone in the world. Because today everything is published as a e-version, right? No, hard copies are obsolete today. So the moment it is accepted and published, all over the world people can see your work. You need to also advertise your work, right? Then identify the aim. That is what is the research question. What you want to convey to the audience in your research field. And most important thing in problem is we should start analyzing the experimental results as soon as possible. So this is a major problem among our researchers, right? Many times we complete our experiments, collect the results, then I got everything. The only thing is I have to write as a kind of paper which I will do later, which is very, very difficult because very quickly we can start forgetting things, right? So my only advice is you can start late, but the moment you complete your research work or your experimental work, you got the results, immediately interpret. If something is wrong, you will again go and redo your experiment. Quickly interpret and start writing things, right? So always start writing, right? It is inefficient to rewrite as the results evolve, right? It is what you should do is start thinking the moment you get the results, right? As the results evolve, start thinking what you can write, right? After you get all the results, you need to go back and rewrite, right? When you got some results, think what can be written, then think how it can be improved, then you do some experiment, redo, again go back. This is how you should iterate writing several times. And another important thing which is lacking is every stage you need to discuss with your supervisor. This advice especially true for the full-time scholars, right? Never withheld information from your supervisor. Always, yeah, I'm going to do like this. Is that okay? Supervisor may be very busy, so try to make use of him efficiently. Say, this is one way of doing, this is another way of doing, this is the third way of doing, which will be better. Quickly, within 2 minutes, discussion is sufficient, right? So always discuss every stage. Also, supervisor will be a correct person to advise you when you can start thinking of writing a paper, because you have to discuss the results of your experiment periodically with the supervisor. Then supervisor will tell you, yes, first we should publish this result. So he is the person who will be very much helpful to you. Then always it is a top-down approach. I'm showing this again, right? First we start with a broad aspects, then come down to little narrow certain specific headings, then discuss about some subheadings, several times redo, add headings, subheadings, subheadings, redo several times, right? And identify what are all the figures that are necessary to tell your story, right? That means you cannot build your research paper only by writing. Maybe in English, some subjects, only writing is sufficient, right? But most of our STEM, right, science, engineering, technology, we need to put in figures. What are all the figures? You may have several figures. Which figures are necessary, right? What are all the assignments you want to give it to co-authors? 2 or 3 of you, 2 or 3 of your colleagues may. So in that case, you can divide the work. Please stop writing until you get all the results, right? You get some initial results, you can, without forgetting what you got, you can keep some write-up, right? Then you continue your experiment, you keep some write-up or modify this. But don't start in building the entire paper, Right? That is what I wanted to, I conveyed on the previous page also. Right? Several subheadings. Think of several subheadings. Top-down approach, again, I'm telling you. Right? And before starting to write, who are all the authors, what should be the abstract, introduction, and methodology, results and discussion, and conclusion. So whatever field in which you are working, all the 400 of you who are attending this talk, you will all follow the same method, whether you are in architecture or in computer science, more or less you will follow the same structure, maybe some minor modifications, that's all. Lastly, acknowledgements, references. So you will always follow this thing. That means abstract, introduction, methods, results and discussion, and conclusion, then acknowledgement, references. So this is the pattern all of you need to follow. Right? This is the best way to present our results. In some studies, people who are working in civil engineering, you may be working on a specific geographical area. In that case, you need to describe about that area. Suppose you may be working in Virudhunagar area, some small catchment. You may have to describe that catchment. So that is possible. You introduce the study site either here or also you can inside this. Inside methods, right? That is the only change for the people who are working at specific geographical sites. And you need to decide about the co-authors, right? Usually the student, that is, you are going to be the normally you will be the first author, but in Anna University, student can be the first author or the supervisor can be the first author, right? That option is there. So usually student will be the first author, and there may be several co-authors. If there are many co-authors, the workload of the lead author is getting reduced, isn't it? Also, here again, I would like to advise with regard to this, keep a look at the guidelines, because if you have 10 authors, co-authors, what is your contribution for that paper? Right? With the 10 authors, you have published one paper. With that, you will be interested in submitting the thesis. Whereas from the administration side, they will be little bit concerned, because what is your contribution for that particular paper is a question mark. So you have to be a bit careful with regard to that. Very sorry. And the structure. We had seen this already, right? But here I have written little bit on the right hand side. Title is very important. You should have a catchy title like in movies today, right? And abstract, what it should tell. It should tell the entire story in 10-15 lines. The entire paper story should be told in 15 to 20 sentences. What is introduction is going to talk about? Introduction is going to talk about what is the status quo, what is missing in the status quo, that means what is the research question, right? What is the objective? Actually, this may be not more than 20 to 30 sentences, or maybe max maybe 50 sentences in the research paper. But writing this is actually very, very difficult. Writing introduction is always difficult, because you need to attract, you need an attractive title. Start from what happened in the world, then come down to your study side, narrow down what others have done, review the literature, then you say what is missing. That is what is the question which I am going to solve in this paper. That is what we have to write in introduction. And then methods. This is actually the easiest to write. In fact, first you can start writing about the methods, because you have done the problem, you have done the work. What are all the different methods you have done? You can write. Description of the study site, applicable for people working in geology or civil engineering. It is also very easy to write. Then results. These results, writing results also little bit easy, because we are going to just present what we have found out during the experiments. Then the next discussion is again most difficult. Like introduction, writing the discussion part is also the second most difficult thing. Then conclusion, we had seen this. Some papers today, they also ask about conflict of interest, whether you may be promoting certain thing. For the same thing, there may be company who may be selling that. So that means indirectly you are advertising. These are known as conflict of interest. Many a times we write there is no conflict of interest in the research work which we are doing. Today in many journals they also ask about author's contribution. Right? There are 5 authors. Which author did the field work? Everything we need to disclose at the fag end of the paper. Right? First is writing the abstract. How to write the abstract? As I told you, abstract is not more than 15-20 sentences. So first sentence is a catchy sentence to attract author's attention. Right? So let us say groundwater is the most widely exploited resource in the world. Yeah, so you are trying to catch the attention, right? So first sentence is a general sentence in which you highlight the importance of your study. Then next 2 or 3 sentences going to be on the objectives of your work, that is the aims and objectives. Then after that, we are going to write after objectives what was done by you. That means after objectives, 2 sentences of objective, 1 introductory sentence, 2 or 3 sentences about methods. Then from about 4 or 5 sentences on the results and discussion. And the last sentence, 1 or 2 conclusion sentence. This is what is the abstract is. So in the abstract, no figures, no tables, no references also. Some people here again, they cite some references, which is wrong. Journals will not, you cannot cite anyone in the reference. It has to be only written by you, right? And also abbreviations should be avoided. This is how we build the abstract. Then the introduction. I told you already, introduction is very difficult to, very difficult part is the writing the introduction. So how to write the introduction? I told you first and foremost is similar to abstract. First you need a catchy statement introducing the importance of your research. First statement is, by reading the first statement, author should be interested in reading your paper, right? And then the difficult thing is what is the status quo, what others have done. That means you will refer several papers. When you refer, you should keep top papers. That means journals from high impact factor journals are very important. Many times our students make a mistake because most of the predatory journals, they collect 5,000, 10,000 rupees and publish. They also pay some other agency. The journals will come in the top when you search from Google. So many people of our students refer that. That is not at all advisable. So you please see when you refer, when you are studying status quo, you should first of all see whether that paper is listed in our Anna University list. Is it a reputed journal? Is it having an impact factor, high impact factor of at least more than 5? Such papers we have to refer you. Okay. Then what is the status? How you are going to, what is the small lacuna? What is missing in these papers? That is what is wrong. How you are going to answer that, right? So from there you got the research question. That is what is your objective, right? How you are going to go beyond that. This is what we have to write in introduction. As I told you, it is the most difficult part. 3 or 4 times, 5 times you have to rewrite before going to your supervisor. And we should keep this in mind. This is what I told you, inverted approach. It is the inverted pyramid approach. Start from the broad perspective, first sentence. Write a broad sentence. Then slowly discuss different aspects of that sentence by other works. Right? What is the status? So and so in California did a study, he came out and said like this. In Australia they did like this. So these are all the different aspects of my research. This is how they looked into my research problem, and however they have not solved it completely. There is still some questions left over. I'm trying to propose a new technique to overcome this. You should not tell the technique right up front. You should keep up the tempo. I'm proposing a new technique which will do this computation much more fast, much rapidly. So introduce your work slightly, then come to your objectives. This is very, very important. This is actually very much lacking among us, right? Writing this is very difficult because what I see is they come down like this in your introduction. Again, they talk about some general aspects, right? For example, increase in population leads to stress on water. This is how we would have started, right? After writing 10, 15 sentences, again we may write urbanization, population increase makes water more scarce. Like that we will write after 10 sentences, which is wrong because you have already written. If you want to write something along with that, there itself we should write. So this is very common. This is how we should follow the introduction. You open any research paper from your top journal, they would have followed this, right? 99%, 95% of them, they would have followed this. This I told you, most important in introduction, the introduction should come and end with the objectives. The last sentence of your introduction will be the objectives, which should be very clear. Then the materials and methods. This can be used this can be written very easily because we are going to describe what are the data which we have used, what are all the different techniques, what are all the different experiments, include photographs, pictures, everything, right? So they can be grouped under different sections. Methodology, methods, and materials can have several subsections 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, like that. You can segregate them, right? The primary data, that means the data you collected from different companies, you can write data you generated, can be written. Then data analytics, right? Data processing, did you use any software? That this is how you are the right person to decide, right? So this is how you can group and write the methodology. As I told you, writing methodology is little bit easy, right? Because we are going to write whatever you did. Because even in laboratory courses which you have undergone, you have more or less followed the same. What is the method? How I analyzed? We have written this. So this is little bit easy. And also here we should find the balance. One important thing is we need to describe everything we did, right? But at the same time, you need not write everything that would have been written already by some others, right? This is very, very crucial. So leaving out everything not needed is also important, right? That means you may think, right? I have done so much of work. I would like to write everything. That may not be necessary because already some researchers would have used part of the methods which you have employed. So in such cases, what you do, right, you highlight what was done by you newly. You have fabricated the new equipment, nobody has done, write about that. What is the new data you generated, how you generated by your methods, write about that. These things can be described elaborately, right? They can be described in detail. Whereas some work which would have been done already, the instrument would have been already developed, you may be using the same instrument. In that case, you just write, I have used this particular method, using the method followed by so and so. Just refer them. Just citing a reference itself is sufficient. You need not elaborate on that. This is very important in methods, right? Sometimes methodology can be written very crisply also. Suppose if all the method, for example, I have used this instrument, atomic absorption spectrometer was used to determine this heavy metal. That is sufficient, right? You need not write down the principle of AAS. These are all things which are not at all necessary. Right? But it is easy actually. And here again, we should not repeat the descriptions which are already available in the papers published by your peers, right? The papers which has been published by the previous research, you can just cite them. So writing methodology is little bit right? Also, as I told you, include number of figures. Figures are equivalent to 1,000 words. Whatever you want to describe in one page can be beautifully described with a figure for methodology, something like a flow chart. Flow chart nowadays also very much confusing. A flow chart or a nice diagram indicating the flow of work. First I did this, include the pictures taken in the laboratory. So this will make um, it is very interesting for the readers to see pictures rather than reading. Then results. Results is the core of the paper, right? In fact, first we can start where, how will you know whether the paper is ready? First and foremost is build upon results. As I told you previously, get results. What is your thoughts on the results? Your thoughts have to be immediately written like a small note in your computer. Keep it safely. You are next day you are doing some experiment. Keep a note or improve the same note. Whatever you thought of, you may be reworking, changing that. Also be concise. Here again, there is no right to blah 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 blah. Writing entire results are also not necessary. Write about something. I got several other experiments. All of them gave the similar results. That is sufficient, right? Write everything. We should keep in mind, right? This is the statement, right? Fool collect facts, the wise man selects them, right? So you have to select the most important results that can be described to the fact, right? But at the same time, you should not be also too wise. Collect all the facts and then select what has to be included in the paper, right? So this is very, very crucial. How we can learn about this? Only thing we can very easily learn about this by looking at other top papers, not inferior papers. You please look at the papers published in the top journals in your area of research, how they have described. Using that, you will be able to learn. Then here again, we should never repeat in any paper. So when you read, right, the reader should know already has described this. That should be prevented. More on results. So results have to be given emphasis based on what you are going to discuss, right? All because first is the results and then the discussion, right? Whatever results that you are presenting here should have a bearing on this. If it is not going to be used in the later part, don't give it here, right? So result section only describe the results. Sometimes the papers are written, right? I mean, including for me, when I put the title as results and discussion, I give the results. One result along with that I discuss, that is discuss. I give the next result, then I discuss. When I send a paper, the paper is written. Please segregate results first and then discussion later. Some of our papers got returned. So this you should keep in mind, right? Results in results section, though the title is results and discussion, first part of your results and discussion is only the results. Don't interpret. For example, uh, the concentration of microplastics is so much in the Kuvam River. That is the result. Don't write why it would have been. Is it because of the solid waste disposal? That we won't write there. That is the discussion part. So just present the salient aspects of results, then the discussion. That is what I have written. So when you are writing, you should refer others. Right? This is important. And many times we fail to do this. What do we mean by refer others? Similar to your research, some other person would have done previously at the same site, others would have worked. I got a result like this, whereas Elango 2022, he has given a result which is very different from this. He would have been wrong, right? You can certainly discuss, you need to discuss about the past work, right? He got some result like this. My results are very different due to this, like that. You should. That is what is the discussion part, right? As I told you, is actually very difficult. Right? What we should use is we should try to give answer for why and how. Actually, in our question paper also they say question should be how type of questions in an university. So in the same way, we should try to give answers for our questions. Why, how, we should give answers in the discussion part. Also, as I told you on the previous page, whether you agree with someone so and so, you put the year 2021, so and so maybe Elango or someone else, my results are corroborating with him or not. I disagree with the work which he has carried out due to this reason. This is how we have to discuss. So, this writing this part is the most difficult thing. First is the introduction, second most difficult thing is writing the discussion part. So what we can do is, suppose if we have an objective, right? So divide the objective into 2 or 3 splits, right? Divide the question into 2, 3. So first discuss about this, then you discuss about this, then you discuss about this. Then collectively say, because of this reason, I have got this answer. This is how we should complete the discussion, because at the end of discussion you are going to have the conclusions, right? After discussion is going to be the conclusion. Obviously results and discussion will have several figures and also sometimes pictures. Suppose if you have done some work, you got the results in the field, present the pictures, right, which is also very interesting. So this is the anatomy of figure. Please remember, always the title of the figures will be at the bottom. Don't ask me why. This is the convention the world is following. If it is a figure, title is at the bottom. If it is a table, title is at the top, right? So a figure, you should, the moment you complete a figure, check whether you have put the labels properly, right? Whether the labels are there. And the most important thing in science and technology is whether you have given the proper units and the tick marks of the label. Everything you play, we need to check. And the table, as I told you, should have a heading at the top. Then the conclusion of your work. So this is after you completed your discussion, you are coming out with a conclusion. In conclusion, we are going to just repeat, right? Repeat some salient aspects. That means, that is what I put in capital letter. Main discussion and results alone you will be repeating. And also no need to give the numbers. For example, the conversion rate. In my engine is so many, you will write some numbers, isn't it? 4.3. The horsepower of engine I have used is 1.4. That is not necessary. These numbers need not be rewritten in the conclusion, but you can say it is much higher, much lower. So we can, so that some people tend to read only the conclusion. They should also appreciate your conclusion. So don't put too much of abbreviations and numbers, data, right, in a descriptive form. So which is very, very vital, right? But writing this is also a little bit difficult, because as a researchers, we tend to think all our results are important. That is why the paper goes for peer review. Others also suggest you. So the best is you think several times, right? Try to see which is the best. You yourself rank and delete whatever is not really important, because that anyhow you have put in the results and discussion. So most important aspects alone you bring into the conclusion. And also in some papers we also write little bit how I am able to achieve that because of the innovation I have brought into the methods. Sometimes this is also necessary, depends on the work which you are carrying. So this is how we complete the paper, right? So what ultimately we have achieved is, we have just described what we have done through a work of 6 or 1 year or 2 years. What we have done, we are simply explaining what we did. Please remember, language is not a barrier, right? Sometimes, always, even today, for the papers we submit, they write one sentence, the language is poor, better to check with some native speaker like that, they write. But again, we don't give it for editorial services, which is very expensive. Again, we read, correct, and then send it back. Right? Ultimately, they also make some minor changes. Right? Then they ask whether this is okay. Also, I used to ask my students, right, you are very poor in explaining what you are doing. Please try to see whether you are able to explain the same in your own mother tongue. Can you explain what you are doing to your mother or brother or sister? Certainly, they won't be able to do that. That is why they are unable to write a paper. So, try to learn to tell what you are doing to your own family in a simple manner. If you make them understand in your own language, then you are a very good orator, you are a good speaker, you are a good seller. Try to convert the same in English, right? So we should never write a paper something like this. Hope you know what is it about, right? A person has studied about the cow very much. What is the uses of cow? But the question was, what is the use of a coconut tree? So what he did, he wrote the entire answer explaining about the cow. At the end, he says the cow can be tied to the coconut tree. This is the use of coconut tree. So as a joke, I'm saying this. So we should keep this story also in our mind. Slowly, we should increase the tempo, interest of the reader. Ultimately, you should come and complete. References, I'm not going to talk about references because references are automatically taken care. The moment you submit, they also say how whether the references are in order or not. It automatically the software does this one. So what next? You have completed the paper now. Then read, write, read, rewrite, read, rewrite, not one or two times, at least 20 times, especially first paper. You yourself, you should think like maybe a movie, an onion, right? You should think what this fellow has written, useless fellow, like that. You should criticize yourself and read your paper. Your aim should be only to find 100 mistakes in the one page. With that aim, you should read, right? You should not think I have written, everything is okay. You should not read like that. You should be a critic when you read your own paper and find out mistakes. Give it to your friends. But nowadays, friends also say, very good, excellent, because they don't want to spend a lot of their time, right? So you please identify a good friend, ask him to give critical comments, right? You should be happy when they criticize you. Many times we don't like criticism, but that will really help you to grow. Ask for their comments. Let them give critical comments. Tell them, read and give only the negative points. Don't tell me positive points like that you do. So it is a collective work. All co-authors should read the same, right? For example, in your group, you may have all experts, different experts, right? You may have 3 or 4 authors. One can criticize about the other's work so that we can improve. This is how we can improve the version several times. Then go to your supervisor, right? And the supervisor will also suggest. Then this iteration process continues several times. This takes a lot of time. The entire work, starting from experiment, completion of writing a paper would have been over by in 6 months. This may take sometimes 3 to 6 months. Then publication of this takes another 6 months, right? So this we should keep in mind. So a bit on writing style. Make it very simple. See, all journals accept active or passive. You can write as if I collected samples, I did the work in the laboratory of Anna University, like that you can write. Also, you can write in the passive way. Samples were collected, experiments were carried out in the air-conditioned laboratory at this temperature, like that, right? Both versions are accepted, right? Always make it simple, right? You can read our papers, right? Many of them used to say, I write everything here. Researcher, if he reads our paper, you should be able to understand everything, right? So avoid all jargons. High-tech English is not at all necessary, right? Never assume readers know everything. Start from the simplest thing, go for more complex thing. Explain the complex thing also in simple sentences. Don't write a long sentence. Split the sentences. That is very, very vital, right? Write in simple sentences, right? I used to say, Dinatandi is why it is very popular. So they start very simply, this is தெரிந்ததே உங்களுக்கு இது தெரிந்ததே அப்படின்ட்டு ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா they start. So that is why even the person who is in the lowest status is able to read the Dinatandi newspaper. I'm not saying you should write like that, but you should make it very simple. And also, as I told you, we can use also personal pronouns. We did, we sampled, we are sure, like that also we can write. In both the ways we can write. Now, paper has been reviewed by your supervisor and you have submitted your research paper. What happens next? Right? Let me see the time. Right. So what happens next? I'll quickly complete. So the reviewer, please understand, we get lot of reviews. Many times we don't answer also. Reviewer is a busy fellow. Certainly, because he has got too much of work, especially a top reviewer. So he is not going to spend lot of time on your paper. Right? So please remember, 2 or 3 of them are going to review your paper, right? There 2 or 3 of them will review your paper. And they will not spend more than 60 minutes. They will just have cursory look here and there. They will focus their attention on introduction, research gap, objectives. Less attention they will focus on methodology. Then they will see the discussion part and conclusion, right? So then they write the review in 30 minutes time. This is what they do. So paper has to be really appealing. So paper should be extraordinarily well written. The moment they read certain sections, if it is not interesting, they will immediately quickly reject the paper. The editor-in-chief has got so much of papers, right? Today in most of the journals, acceptance rate is only about 60 to 70%. The rest of the papers are rejected, right? If you take the top research journal, water resources research journal, gets about 1,000 papers per annum. They can publish only less than 100. So everything gets rejected practically. So it is really a tough job, right? And also remember, the moment the editor gets your paper, right, here you can see from my dashboard, right, he can see who are all the others who has done similar work. See, on the here itself I can click the button, Google Scholar title search. On the same title, who are all the others who have worked? Where are they from? You can click, right? So why I'm saying this is, you should remember this in your mind, right? Before they do, you should have also done that. Accordingly, you should have changed your title. The moment I click here the search, all the other papers on your area of research appears on my computer. Oh, this fellow, what this fellow claims, already they have done this work. We should not accept this paper. Right at the beginning, you will decide. Right? Another thing, the papers which are coming up here, you should have at least referred them in the status quo. Right? So many papers on the same area is appearing here. You should have at least referred them. If you have not referred them, certainly you are gone. Your paper will be immediately rejected. So why I am showing you this dashboard is, the moment your paper appears here, the plagiarism test also shows up, right? Also it shows up who are all the other authors, similar research papers published. What are your previous papers? You cannot read like a paper mill. You cannot recirculate your own paper. That also comes up. What is your previous? What is your strength? That also shows up here. Then you can see author mapper and author search. Who are all the authors? The world map also shows up. See, author mapper, it will show some balloons on your same area of research. People are there from Romania, from Germany. It shows up on a map. Right? If he goes and clicks, what is the paper they have published? So why I am saying this is, keep this in mind. Don't think only you are writing and you have submitted. The moment it goes to reviewer, he gets all the related information in fingertips. So most of the publishers have integrated everything together, right? And also automatically the plagiarism check is made. So why I am saying this, you should do that yourself, right? make it less than, not more than 25%. Maybe you can exclude the references. Exclude reference and check for plagiarism and make it less than 20. That is the best, right? Because the moment some journals automatically they reject the paper without even citing, improve the originality like that they write. They don't give the entire flag report to you because some people will misuse that, right? You may use the submission portal just to check for plagiarism, right? This is how they do. And also please see, the moment you submit, the computer does the entire check and also it flags. Several flag marks are appearing on my dashboard. Makes my job very easy, right? So authors, you can see quality check requested. You can also see one paper mail or what is that? Yeah, confirmed paper mail. It shows like this directly. Here you can see confirmed. I don't know whether this yellow color is seen to you. Confirmed paper means there are some agencies who are writing. You may end up in paying some money to some fellow, right? He would have copied and made a paper for you, but you will be caught. Right? Keep that in mind, right? So several flag marks are made, right? And you can see so many quality check requested, plagiarism, right? Out of scope. Automatically this is done, right? Because due to using artificial intelligence, your paper is automatically studied by the software and some flags are created. As a editor, I see, oh, is it there is any discrepancy in authors because this has been put tick mark, I will check manually, right? So this is how the review is going on. So at the end of reviewers review work, the report is given to you, right? That means the reviewer gives lot of comments. Many times, if the paper is not rejected, we are happy. They may give a lot of suggestions for you to improve. So you need to respond to the reviewers. What is the question they have put up? How you can? I think don't read this, right? Um, Please elaborately you should answer to all the many people. They say they would have given clear instruction. Whatever change you mark, you make in the paper, you put it in a different color. Also give a elaborate reply to rebuttal letter to the what is the comment he has given, what is your reply, what is the next comment, what is for example the spelling is wrong, yes, spelling was wrong, I changed it, comma not required, yes, comma I agree, comma deleted, the data you have interpreted is not correct. Some of the views you may also differ, you need not accept everything, no, we would like to differ from your opinion, this paper states in the same way, we would like to differ from your findings, like that you can write. So you resubmit your paper again, it gets, even now our paper comes back 3-4 times, we don't give it up, never give it up until it is accepted, because sometimes you may do some more work as suggested, then resubmit your paper. So as an example to motivate you, I am saying you this paper by this in the field of hydrology, they submitted to the top journal. Even today, it is one of the top journal, Journal of Hydrology, right? It is a traditional journal. Now they started also with the hybrid option, right? In 78, they submitted the paper. The paper was rejected with only comment. Many times it is of local interest, not of an interest to Journal of Hydrology. Then they revised and submitted the same paper to Hydrological Sciences Journal, which is our association's journal, IAHS. They accepted the journal in 1979. It was published. Right, this picture I took today. Right, today I took this picture. The number of citations is so far is around 9,000. Right, so it is one of the most cited papers in the area of catchment hydrology. Okay, so why I am showing this is we should never be dejected and we should never give up. Right? If they say something, let us do some more experiments, improve our paper and resubmit. So here the same paper I am showing you. This was a bit old, so it is only photo. So we should also have some ethics, follow the ethics, right? Keep up the originality is very important. And also there are several other ways in which our paper can be criticized. This is one thing, right? PubPeer is an open access platform where they can directly criticize our paper. Suppose if we have committed some fraud, we have reused the figures that has been published already, they can bring in here. Rather than writing to the publisher, they can also pull down us by commenting our paper in these such sites. This will also lead to sometimes retraction of the papers, right? Many times you would have seen in newspapers also, people used to copy some images. Now plagiarism is mostly for writing matter. So people nowadays copy some figures that has been already published. That will certainly come to light one day. We should never do. That is what I said. Ethics is very, very important, right? Lastly, I would like to conclude. As I told, why publication is important, I told you several reasons. It is an important obligation. Please remember, language is not a barrier at all, right? You need not be a top ranker, as I told you. I have good examples of my own students, right? So the most important thing is follow the top-down approach. Discuss the broad things, narrow down. After narrowing down, then again don't discuss this sentence here. Okay? Practice certainly helps a lot. The moment you publish your first paper, you are really elated. The moment you publish your third paper, fourth paper onwards, it is very easy. Right? It becomes very easy for you. Writing a paper becomes a routine for you. Right? Also, start writing. Yeah, build on a paper when you have sufficient material. Don't be in a urge to write your paper right at the beginning of your research career. Though I presented my own experience, I also relied upon these two sides. Thank you very much. I thank the Center for Research for having given me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was a very informative session on how to write a research paper. I'm sure our scholars would have gained a lot of input on what to do and what not to do. And also the inverted pyramid method, I'm sure many of them have written it down, and it's going to help them during their stay here and do the research. Thank you so much, Professor. Now the field is open to questions.
Ma'am, actually, what are the ways we can download recent publications, 3 months ago publications like articles, whatever? Actually, we have a shortcut illegal website Sci-Hub, right? We can download previous 2 years back publication articles, but we don't have any source. We don't have any proper way to download recent articles, right? So, is there any best way? Yes,
See, the university library has subscribed to many journals, and once you are able to access the, the logins of your supervisors, if you come here, then it is very easy to access those journals because the university has subscribed, so it will ask access through. Then you have to say Anna University, and it can be done only from the 4 campuses and the library. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. But even there is not enough articles, we can find it, right?
There are many other sites also where you can explore, but like ma'am said, you will explore it in the process of your PhD, but the best way to authentically look for journals is to explore it through, Anna University login. You try here, you come to the university library or somewhere, under GEST or other databases like Sir showed, right? So Sir is here. Sir, we have a question for you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you answered it perfectly, right? Yeah. There are a lot of ways in which you can get the publications, right? If the paper is an open access paper, you can download on your mobile phone.
Yes.
If it is an open access paper. Hope you are able to hear me. If it is not an open access paper, right, there are several, for example, Anna University has subscribed, as she rightly said, for several publishers. So if you are using the Anna University network, you will be able to download that. Even if that is not there, the best way is to click the abstract and look for their address, right? Name, Elango, L. Elango, Anna, search L. Elango Anna University email ID. send your email. Within a day, you will get the entire paper. That is the easiest. Okay. So if it is an open access, you will directly download that on your phone or on your computer. If it is a traditional journal, then universities would have subscribed. The university pay 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. So if you are within the university network, you will be able to download.
Yes.
Even if that is not working, send an email to them. Send all the.
Yes, ma'am, there is open access, right? There is even some articles not in perfect, like it's maybe like a fake. Some data may not be correct.
Those that are subscribed, you will be able to download definitely. Those that are not accessible, like sir said, you can send a mail to the author, and usually they are very happy to share the paper for research purposes.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Absolutely, correct.
Okay, thank you for your question. Is there any other question from the research scholars? A very comprehensive session we've had, right from thinking about conceiving the idea of the research paper to reviewing and responding to the reviews and not giving up easily. So thank you, sir. Thank you for the session. We are extremely glad and privileged to have attended this particular session, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a nice induction event. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you all.
Now you can leave the session, sir. Thank you, sir.